Hi, everyone. This is Pam Pathy with Focus IT, and we're going to go ahead and start this training call. This is a three-part series training call on the Pulse admin piece of your Pulse site. We have been very busy this morning here, and we did a release to all of your Pulse sites this morning that included a wonderful new feature that I'm going to show everyone on the call today, and you're going to be the first to find out. So I do appreciate you joining the call, and I'm excited to show you a wonderful new feature that we've added. But let's first talk about the admin site to Pulse. Only the users that have executive rights in our Pulse system will find under their initials up in the far right-hand corner an option to go to settings. Normal users will only have their My Profile, change password, open a support ticket, and log out. You as an executive will have access to the settings tab. If you don't have access to the settings tab and you're going to be the one administering the Pulse site for your company, you're going to want to go to the executor and have them give you those rights so that you'll be able to access the settings page. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on settings. And this is the backend settings page. We haven't redesigned this page like we did the front end. So the color scheme and everything on the back end is just a little different, but not too much. Most of what we've done in the Pulse application up to now, a lot of it falls along with the way that the Point application is set up. And what I mean by that is I'm going to show you why we have certain functionalities built into our Pulse application and how they tie out to the Point application. When we set up a Pulse site for the first time, everyone, we send all of our customers a wonderful setup sheet. And that setup sheet asks for some basic information. We ask you to provide us the company logo, addresses, users, email selections, and things like that. Using that setup page, once your site is deployed by our tech department, Bart or myself will go into the backend setup and using your sheet, set it up for you. So basically, when we first go in, we have a general tab, and this general tab allows us to go in and put your company name, your address, your city, state, zip, your phone numbers, an email address, but I'll be very honest, this one doesn't really get used. We do put in a company website address that can be added to email templates, and this is strictly our security token that gets added. We also, on our company setup screen, go into the web email tab. This is where we go in and we add your API key for your Mandrill account with us. We set up 2 Mandrill accounts for our customers. Mandrill is part of MailChimp, and that is the application that we use to send out your status emails as well as your marketing emails. We assign Pulse one IP address. We assign marketing a second one. So that way we can allow the 2 systems to record the histories of those emails that are sent out on your behalf. We upload your company logos here so that we can pull these into email skins on the Pulse marketing side. And this is where it pulls those really nice logos of yours and puts them in those wonderful marketing emails. The other thing that you have an option to set up on the back end is the conversation log. Just in case you're not familiar with that, we did design this probably about 2.5 years ago. It's an option out there that allows our customers to go in and enable the conversation log alert email. What this does is it allows you to select which of your users you would like to be copied on whenever a new entry is made into the conversation log. It sends out an email. So if I was the closer and I went in and I made an entry to the conversation log, it would automatically fire off an email to the executive user if an executive was assigned to the Point file, but that doesn't happen too often. So someone's been playing around with my site, so we're going to uncheck that. But basically, the majority of them are all set up where it would fire off an email to the loan officer as well as to the processor. So if anyone in the company was to make a note in the file, not only would it get recorded to the conversation log, also an auto email would be sent out to the loan officer and to the processor. So that way you don't have to take time to make that entry into the conversation log, as well as pull up an email in your email provider and fire off an email to the appropriate parties to be notified. We have quite a few of our customers using this, and they're using it quite successfully. It is an all or none type of situation. You can't tell it to only fire off on certain data folders or at certain loan types. So this first version that we rolled out, again, is pretty much all or none. And I do have a few of my customers, Pulse customers, using this very successfully, and it's been a great tool for them. Another option on the back end on the setup is we got a request from a couple of our clients where they wanted to, within Pulse, pin a couple links on the nav bar up here at the top so that they could easily get to their intranet within their company, or they could also within Pulse put a link to a rate sheet, an automated underwriting system to a particular lender, just different things. So basically what we did is we created the ability to set up 3 custom menus. The custom menus can be set up, you give it a title, you give it a URL, and then basically you come down here and you indicate who can see that link. As everyone well knows, when you're creating those wonderful views within our system and adding them to your menu bar, each person's menu bar is custom to their own profile. So you can say, is this visible to the executive, to the branch managers, to the loan officers, to the processors? You can simply select, if you want everyone to see it, you can simply click on the check all and it will say that all users have a right to see this link. Once you create it and it's saved, I'm going to go ahead and do a refresh here. And I'm logged in as the system administrator. So I'm going to apologize. I don't think it's going to show up on the screen here for me. I should have tested this ahead of time and I didn't. But as the backend administrator, it's not going to show. But in the future, we're going to check it one more time. It does. I do apologize. It just took a few minutes for my screen to refresh. What it does is it actually shows that link here on the toolbar. So for any of our customers that have particular websites that get visited quite often by their users, if you would find it to be beneficial to go in and establish a couple of those custom links, we've given you an option to create up to 3 of them and decide who you want to share them out with. I don't really have a lot of my customers using this feature, maybe 1 or 2, but it is available to you, and I wanted to let you know in case you were interested. Once this basics is set up, then the next 3 things that we have to address on the setup profile is branches, divisions, and regions. So the first question you probably ask yourself is, why do we have branches, divisions, and regions? Well, it's really quite simple, because Pulse has branches, divisions, and regions. And what I mean by that is, if you've never noticed, inside Point, sorry, let's get this open, inside Point, if you go to the track, you have this option to go to branch team screen. When you go here, you'll notice that the Point system allows you to assign the branch, and within the branch, it allows you to choose the division, and within the division, the region. This was added to the Point system to help a lot of the larger Point users that have multiple branches spread throughout the United States allocated to different divisions within regions. And they wanted to be able to cluster those together for the purpose of reporting, for the purpose of allocating rights to different data folders and things along those lines. So because that was made available in Point, we mimicked the same inside the Pulse application. But most of my customers just are themselves without a branch within themselves. They're just a main branch. They don't have multiple branches. So what we do by default for our customers is we set up a branch called main branch that's assigned to the main division, which in return is assigned to the main region. So if you were to go in and take a look at that, and if you were to see that there was a main branch set up for you, we've done that on your behalf by default. And then, of course, under the main branch setup, this is where we come in and we add, again, your company's address, phone numbers, email, branch website if there was a specific, if we were setting up multiple branches. And we do have a few of our customers that do have multiple branches, and we have that set up for them. But I would say a good 95% of my customers are just a single branch. But most importantly, under the branch setup, this is where we come in and we assign your data folders. So a lot of my customers go, Pam, how do I add a new data folder that we just added to Point Central? How do I add that to Pulse so that all loans entered in the new data folder will sync over? Well, it's really quite easy. You would simply go to your settings to the back end and you go to the branch option. Under the branch option, you're going to come down here to the General tab, and you're going to click on this link that says Add Point Folders. When you do, it's going to open up a screen and it's going to show you all of the data folders that you have available within your Point Central admin page. Okay, now for this is my demo site. And as you can see, I have a lot of junk folders out there. We do a lot of beating up on this demo site, so I have quite a bit. For the purpose of this main branch on this, it will show you here which folders have already been selected for syncing, as well as you can see them over here. But if I wanted to add additional folders, I would simply come in and select them. When you select a folder, it's very important to tell that folder what type of loans are going to be assigned to that folder. What do I mean by that? Well, when I selected the demo, canceled, denied, and withdrawn, I told the system these were going to be archived leads. These were going to be leads that came in that never went anywhere. And it was never a loan closing. It never made it to processing. When I assigned the demo closed loans, I wanted the system to know that these were archived loans, that these were actually files that got originated, processed, and closed. Demo in process are my active loans. These are the ones my processors are currently working on. And then my demo leads I assign to the active leads. So you want to make sure that you select the data folders that you want to use. You want to make sure that you assign the loan status or the types of loans that are going to be contained in those folders. And then most importantly, you want to make sure that you enable them. When they're first added to this, you'll notice that I can come over and select what type of loan it is, and I can come down and tell it that this is archive loans, and I can click add, and it will record it here, as well as I can come in here and I can select them from here if I wish to do so. But once I add a folder and I save that new folder to the system, you'll notice that right away over here it's not showing the folder enabled. The next step that I would have to do is select that folder and enable it, and once it's enabled, then I need to save the screen again. So this is a two-save process to add additional data folders. It's not too complicated, and we do have a how-to YouTube video out on our site that does walk you through this the next time you need to add a data folder. So feel free to go out to our YouTube site and take a look at those videos. Of course, because of the hierarchy that's dictated by Point, we mimic it here. So any branches that we have set up, for it to be functionable, it has to be assigned to a division. So our main branch is assigned to our main division. And then, of course, the division is in return assigned to the region. So the division for our main division is assigned to our main region. The only difference between these is if you go in and you set up your own user account and you were to make a user an executive, you do have to also add your executives here under your division. If under the user profile, if they're assigned as an executive and they're not added as an executive to the division, they're not going to have rights to the settings page. It's not going to work right for them. So if you've set a user up as a new executive and something's not working, more than likely you just overlooked coming in and adding them to the division. Once you add them, I'm sure that their user account will function just the way you want it to. So again, these are covered in a YouTube video. It's a little convoluted, but it was done and designed to follow along with the Point application. The next thing that we have here are the groups. Now, you won't really need to do much with the groups. Basically, the groups are created for you, and they're created when we want to have specific security groups that our users will be assigned to. So when you add a new user to the system, you choose the group that you want them assigned to, and in this case, maybe to the main branch. And then, of course, one of the things that on the branch setup, you'll notice over here, we assign what group is being used for that branch's security group. So the main branch, its group access security group is the main branch. I kept them all named the same. I tried to make it as simple for my customers as I can. If you have a need to set up additional branches going forward, please reach out to us and let us help you with that. So that way we can assist in setting them up and walk you through the process. And that way we can make sure that the groups are created, the branches are created, that everything is assigned to the divisions within the regions, and that everything will work once you let everyone know that the new branch is out there. What's nice about creating a branch is, let me give you a couple examples of my customers using different branches. We do have a few companies that use the same Point Central server to run multiple companies. They may have data folders set up for Company A and another set of data folders set up for Company B. Company A works off the name of Company A at 123 Broad Street. Company B works under the name of Company B at 456 Broad Street. So their names are different, their addresses are different, their contact information is different, and even in most cases, they have different logos. In that particular case, we can set the branch up, apply the address and the contact information, we can upload their logo, and then what we can do is we can have the emails when they're generated, pull the logo from the branch that loan is assigned to, and to pull the address and phone numbers under that branch versus pulling it under the company setup. This has allowed us to mimic and pulse what our customers did in Point, and allowed us to be able to have status emails go out under two different companies depending on the branch in which that loan is assigned to. So it works quite nicely, and it gives us some flexibility for our customers. Okay. I have other customers that just have the different branches within their, they have all of their loans in the same data folders, but within Point, instead of creating different data folders for their branches, they simply assigned the branch name here under the branch team screen. So they all work out of the same set of data folders, but each loan is assigned to a unique branch. In that case, by setting up their Point system that way, we were able to go in and mimic those branch names, and we were able to create that false illusion here within the Pulse system. Simply that branch doesn't have data folders assigned, so when the users are created, they're all assigned to the main data folder as well as that branch. So when the loans come in, it's still reading from that branch setup and pulling in that branch address. So this does get really quite detailed and a bit convoluted. I'm not going to go into much more on that, but I will be happy to help anyone if you have the need to set up additional branches and how all that works. There is a security setting within our system, and basically the security setting, when it was originally designed, the different security settings were assigned role names. They were basically formatted to match closely to the user profile that is created within the Point system. Within Point, you have the ability to create originators, processors, underwriters, doc prep closers, or shippers. So because you have the ability to assign these different contacts within the Point system, we used our roles or our security groups to match those different contacts. And then, of course, that also gets mimicked close to the way that you apply your security through your Point Central admin page. You can come in and basically through the roles by default, for instance, a loan officer is set up just like you would within the Point system, where they're set up to where they only see their own assigned loans and they're not allowed to see all loans within the system. We were also able to go in and set up a processor group where processors have the rights to see all loans. There's some other settings on this page, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this because I'm going to be very honest, everyone. We're in the midst of revamping this page, and because of our new version of Pulse and the way things that are handled, some of these options are no longer function, even if you were to go in and to make changes. So you're welcome to go in and explore this page, but if you need any assistance or anything for help on that, let me know. But most of our customers, the way that it defaults in works perfectly fine for them. Everyone has always inquired and asked if they could go in and they could create users within the system. And absolutely, you can go in and create your own users if you want to, or you can email us and we're happy to create them for you. To create a user, it's really very simple, but I recommend to my customers to make it as easy for you as possible, is I would say to go into your user option and to go find a user that's already assigned to a role, or find a current user that you want to mimic. So if I wanted to set up a loan officer, a new loan officer in my system, and I wanted to make sure that this new loan officer was set up to match exactly the way that Ed utilizes Pulse, the first thing that I would probably do is I would open up Ed's user profile, and I would either keep this open on another screen or grab a screenshot of it, because so long as I mimic the way that Ed's is set up for the new loan officer, then I shouldn't have any difficulty, or that new loan officer shouldn't have any difficulty logging into the system and accessing the files that they need to. Because when you do click on the Create button, it opens up into a blank window, and of course the users are automatically enabled, but you can uncheck this if you want to, if you're not ready to send the confirmation email to that user. Some of the older systems, some of our clients have been around with us for a while, will notice way back when we used to do usernames like first initial, last name, first name, last initial. A long time ago that got changed, and now we do require that the username actually be the email address. So you would enter the new user's email address here. You would enter their name down here. Now, if you are adding a new user, and this new user happens to be a loan officer, it's going to be very important that the way you add their name here matches the way that you're adding their name in Point. Our system does the same thing as the Point application does through the Point Central Admin functionality. When you tell it that they only have rights to see their own loans, it's going to compare the way that their name appears in the setup screen to the way that their name appears as the originator on the loan. And they have to match letter for letter, space for space, dot for dot. If I'm in Point as Pam Padley and I put myself here as Pam J. Padley, I'm not going to see my loans. If I'm in the system as Pam J. Padley inside Point, but here I put Pam J. period Padley, again, I'm not going to see my loans. It has to match identical, okay? So when you go in and you add a new user, make sure the way that you enter their name here when they're a loan officer matches exactly the way you're going to enter them in that drop-down list inside Point. And of course, everyone knows the best way to make sure that the names always match is when you're in Point, go to Utilities, to drop-down list into Originator. Add your new loan officer here. Make sure that the way that their name appears here is exactly the way that you're going to create it in the Pulse application. They should have no trouble seeing their loans once they start creating them. Over here, what you're going to do is you're going to choose their role. And again, most of our users are either an executive, a loan officer, or a processor. We do have some larger companies that have underwriters, closers, dot preps, and so on. But I also have companies out there, everyone, that do not have underwriters, doc prep, closers, or shippers, but they have other people working for them that they would like to have attached to a loan so that they can be included in email notifications, that they'll have access to certain loans when they log into the Pulse system, whatever that might be. So I always tell my customers, be sure to think outside the box, okay? Just because in the system this says underwriter, doc prep, closer, or shipper doesn't mean that you have to use them to assign an underwriter, doc prep, closer, or shipper. You could maybe have a transaction coordinator. Maybe you have a loan officer assistant or a processor assistant. For your company, you could tell everyone that the loan officer's assistant is assigned as the doc prep. The processor's assistant is assigned as the closer/funder. And the best way to make sure that everyone uses those when you change them up a little bit and you're thinking outside the box, remember everyone inside the Point application that it really does a great job when you set up those wonderful borrower master templates. And from that borrower master template, you can go to track and you can come down to branch team screen. And what you can do is you cannot change the headers here. Point doesn't allow that. But what you can do is under the titles here, you can say Loan Officer Assistant. Okay? Over here, you could say Processor Assistant. Up here, you could say that this would be for the loan officer. And over here, you could say this could be for the processor. So what you do is you tell everyone within your company, don't pay attention to the titles that are hard-coded at the top, but pay attention to the actual titles assigned to those blocks. That way you make sure that everyone in your company is selecting the right user to add. And then, of course, you're simply going to mimic that on this end by assigning them to the different roles. And then, of course, they can get added to email notifications and some really great other stuff that we're going to talk about in our second and third call. Okay, so in this particular case, I'm going to assign this user as a loan officer. I can put in a phone number, a cell number, a fax number. This compensation section was designed a long time ago. It never fully got deployed. It was something customized for a single user. It should have never been displayed on this page. We just haven't gotten around to removing it, so I do apologize. I'm going to ask you to simply ignore that. Over here under group access, this is going to be the most important thing. This is going to determine what loans they're going to get to see. So down here, I'm going to click on Add Row, and I definitely want to add my loan officer to my main branch. So the main branch is the branch that contains the data folders that this loan officer will be working out of, and I want to make sure that this loan officer can see the loans that they're assigned to within this branch and within those data folders. Now, if I was setting up an executive, okay, the only difference is the executive account. When an executive is set up, they're assigned to the branch, but they also have to be assigned to this company user group, okay? So the only difference in setting up a normal user to an executive user is making sure that that user also gets assigned to the company user group. And then, of course, if they're an executive, don't forget to go over and add them under the division. This loan rep mapping is a feature that we came up with. In case you don't know, for everyone on the call, and you know how much I love to share little tidbits about Point, if you're bringing in data from conventional Point to Point Central, and you had different people all running their own Point application, and you were exchanging and sending files back and forth, there was no consistency on the way that the originators or the processors' names showed on the files, and now you're bringing all that data into one nice database and you want to clean it up. Point does have a tool that's called a name change tool. You have to specifically go to Point to request it. They will send you a link to download that tool to your local computer. It will use your local copy of Point with that tool that will actually allow you to go out and say, for every originator that's out there under the name of Pam Padley, change it to Pamela J. Padley. Or if it's out there under Pamela J. Padley, change it back to Pamela Padley. So you do have the ability through that name change tool to go out and do a cleanup on your database. You can, I know that it's capable of doing it for loan officers. I believe it's also capable of doing it for processors and other ones, but I'm not 100% positive on that. It's been a long time since I used that tool. But for my customers who don't use that tool and don't see a need to go back and clean up their database, I have to have a way within our Pulse application to take into accountability all those different odd names that they may have been using way back when, before NMLS came along and the registry came along, and their names on page 4 of the 1003 had to match the way they were registered through NMLS, and all those great things that we've gone through in this industry over the years. So what we did is we developed this loan rep mapping field that actually allowed us to go out and take a look at all of the different versions of the names that some of our loan officers are using. Like, for instance, Holland. If I was to come up here and I was setting up the user Holland, I would come in here and I would put Holland's last name and I would filter by it. And I could go out there and I could see all the different ways that Holland was listed in all of the old files inside Point. And I would be able to select those and I would be able to add those. So basically, they call it Point Loan Rep Mapping, but basically it's AKAs, everyone. It's as simple as that, also known as. So by putting these in as also known as is when it looks at those files and it sees this name, it knows that this name belongs to this name, and in Pulse, it would assign it this name. So that way in Pulse, they would be able to have access to see this file even though the two names don't match. So even though you cannot do AKAs within Point Central, you can only use that name change tool. We did come up with AKAs to be able to accommodate those within the Pulse application for you. We pretty much handle this for our customers during the setup process. You're not even aware that we're doing all this work for you on the back end. Excuse me. The only time this would be important to you when you're adding a new user, if the new user is coming on board and they're wanting to bring in their existing Point database from another location. In that case, I'm sure that their names are going to vary on those files, and you would need to do an AKA so that they would have access to see those files. But when that time comes, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to help you with it. Once all this is set up and it's saved, and of course this is going to error out on me because I'm already out there, but once you save it and you go back in and you open it up, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you at that point to enable it. And also up here, it's going to show you that that account has not been confirmed yet. This account has been verified. When the account hasn't been verified, it's going to appear here in red. Instead of this having a button here that says reset password, it's going to be a button that says send confirmation email. So you're going to want to make sure that you send that confirmation email to that new user so that they can set up their password and confirm their account. Once they have, it will mark that the account has been verified, and they should have no problem logging into the system. Now, users, when they're set up, you can notice over here on the far right-hand corner under branches that users can be assigned to multiple branches. Some companies do have, but not, I've only seen it maybe once or twice over the last 8 years, where a loan officer has worked out of multiple branches. But most of the time when a user is assigned to multiple branches, that's usually going to be your internal staff, like a processor, an underwriter, a closer, or someone along those lines. Most loan officers are just assigned to the branch in which they're originating out of. One of the things that is frustrating for our customers, and we do apologize, if you email us, we're more than happy to do it for you. Inside the Pulse application, you cannot delete a user. You can select a user, and you can disable that user. We have a script that runs through each one of our Pulse applications on a monthly basis for billing purposes, and it looks to see what accounts have been enabled, and it uses those accounts to bill you. So you are not billed for accounts that are not enabled on your Pulse site. Just because they're left out there doesn't mean that you're going to be billed for them. You will not be billed. You will only be billed for the accounts that are enabled. I'm going to re-enable that. We use it for testing. If you want this cleaned up, if the OCD and you, like me, would like to see this cleaned up and you only want to see the accounts that are enabled, no problem at all. Just shoot us a quick email and ask us to remove all of your disabled accounts. It only takes us about 4 minutes to make that happen on the back end for you, and we'll be more than happy to do that. Later on, we will be adding the ability for you to go in and delete them. Yes, we do have a delete button here. No, you do not want to use it. The reason why is if you select an account and you mark delete, what it's going to do is it's going to come up with a window, and I don't want to do one that I'm picking on because I use it all the time. Let's go down and pick one I haven't done for a while. When you come up and you choose one and you click delete and you say okay, it's going to bring up this weird box, okay? This was designed back in the original code. And we're slowly working our way out of that original code because so much is intertwined. What it's looking for is it's wanting you to assign the loans where this user was assigned to. It's wanting you to reassign those loans to a different user. You don't want to do that because you don't want Pulse to go in and alter your historical records within Point. So what we've done is we've simply blanked that screen out until we can strip out the rest of the code. So please don't attempt to delete a user inside Pulse. You're going to get that screen. It's not going to make any sense to you anyways, and you're not going to be able to bypass it. But shoot us an email, and we're happy to clean your site up for you if you'd like us to. Here, you have the ability to go in and look at the point folder list. And basically, again, this is going to show you all of your folders that you have set up in Point Central. It's going to show you which of these folders are enabled. And over here, it's going to show you the last time they were imported. Now, this is only going to show up for my customers that are running Point Central. I do have customers that may have joined the call today that may be on Point Conventional. Yours will not show a last imported date. We don't have the ability to pull that on your site, but it will show you what data folders are enabled and which aren't. So if you think that your Pulse system isn't syncing and you're not seeing updated data, you can go into the Pulse folder list and take a look over here and see if this has a current date and time. This is based off Arizona. And of course, Arizona doesn't follow the daylight savings time. Right now, they're currently 3 hours behind me. I'm on the East Coast, but right now they're running in the Pacific time zone. Once the daylight savings time change, they go to mountain time. So that fluctuates a little bit. So the actual time here can be a little confusing. So basically, I spent the last 30-some minutes going over a lot of the different features here just so that you had a background of what they all were in case you decided to go in and take a look at them. And I wanted to make sure that you know how to go in and add your own users if you chose to do so. Now, on this call, I do want to remind everyone we do have the ability to add email templates, and everyone's familiar with the email templates because you're familiar with those wonderful status emails that we do on your behalf. These are where those status emails are created, and this is where you can go in and you can edit the ones that we offer by default. We're going to talk a little bit more about creating status emails in our call next week, and I probably will be repeating a few things in our call next week that I'm going over with you today. So we're going to come back to this feature in just a moment. We do have the ability for our customers, and I'll be covering this under our third call, to go in and create what we call a checklist. Basically, everyone, a checklist is nothing but an electronic to-do list. We have a lot of our customers that want to make sure things don't get missed as the file moves through the process. They have turnover in their company. They have juniors that help out their seniors. They just like a mental checklist that allows them to go back and make sure things don't get missed as the loan moves through the system, so you don't have those bombs going off just before closing. So the checklist allows you to go in and create certain stages in which a loan moves through the system, and it allows you to assign tasks that need to be completed under those stages as it moves from one to the next. I'll be covering this in our third call and going into it in a lot more detail. And of course, with the email templates are wonderful, but if you don't have rules created to be able to trigger those email templates, they're not going to go anywhere unless you manually send them or they're added as a completion email to a checklist. So the next important thing is not only creating those wonderful email templates, but creating rules that will trigger them. As everyone well knows, we pull around 4,800 data folders up to 5,000 from Point over into Pulse. Everyone on the call by now should know, but just in case you don't and you're new to any of my calls, inside the Point application, it's very important to know what the field ID numbers are. The best way to look up field ID numbers in Point is to go to Utilities, load field ID numbers, and go to Borrower. When you do, it's going to open up a blank loan, and inside that blank loan, you're going to see all the different field ID numbers. Most of our emails are triggered off of, or the main trigger for most of the emails is going to be a date field. And then a lot of those not only trigger off a date field, but they also trigger off a second field. Like a lot of our customers on the appraisal ordered, they may have one version of the appraisal ordered that tells the system to look at the appraisal ordered field 6315. If this contains today's date, and under the borrower information page, if the purchase box has been checked, trigger and send this email. If either one of the refi boxes have been checked, trigger and send this email. We have the ability within our rule engine to create some really great conditions. We're going to use appraisal ordered as that example. So if I was to go into appraisal ordered, you basically give the rule a name. The scope needs to be set to company. This will allow it to run for your entire company. A loan scope is basically one that's used for testing, and you're not going to be doing that because we don't even have the way for a file to be added to a rule manually anymore. So you're going to want to make sure that this goes to the scope. Over here, remember when I told you created those data folders and you had to add the types of loans within those data folders? This is where one of the places it comes into play. So appraisal ordered, I want to make sure that it's looking at my active loans folder because that would be the ones where I'm currently working on my loans, and those would be the loans that appraisals would be ordered on. Down here, under template number 1, I'm going to be able to choose from all the different templates that I have available. And of course, for this one, I wanted to send out the appraisal ordered. Down here is where I'm going to add the condition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this one so we can walk through this process of adding it. Basically, to add a condition, you're going to click on Add Condition. And you have the ability to add multiple conditions, so you can add as many as you want. This here is going to be looking for the point field. So as I said, you're going to want to look for the field that you want to trigger it off of. So I'm going to come back to my track status screen. I'm going to go to Appraisal Report under the Order column, and I want to look at field 6315. So I'm going to come back, and I'm going to type in here field 6315. Give the system a second to sort through all of those 5,000 fields and come up with the one that I'm looking for. I'm going to tell it that the condition is I want it to equal today's date. I do have the ability to say if the appraisal date was yesterday, trigger and send the email. If the date was entered within the last X number of days, and I could say if it was entered over the last 5 days, trigger and send the email. Most of the time, the conditions are usually set that if it equals today's date, or my favorite condition is today difference. I like this condition besides the today condition because basically this condition, everyone, is saying take today's date and look either forwards or backwards based on what I put over here under tolerance. So if I was to come over here and put a -7, if I told the system take today's date, look back 7 days, and if the appraisal order date was dated 7 days ago, trigger and send out this email. Okay. Now this here isn't used very often for like appraisal ordered and different things like that. But what if you were creating a custom email? What if you wanted to create a custom email that reminded the loan officer that a prospect was 7 days old and they may want to follow up on that lead? This would be an example where you would use a today difference and a negative. And I'll show you one of those sample rules in just a moment. But over here, I also can add another condition by telling the system to look at field 1190, which is purchase, and I can say if it equals yes, if these two things, if these two conditions, if the appraisal order equals today and the transaction is a purchase, meaning it equals yes, I can come over here and I can say, look at conditions 1 and 2, and if 1 and 2 are true, then I want you to trigger and send out this email. So we can write some really neat conditions. A lot of our customers, when they get into creating the rules for the first time and doing conditions, they reach out to us, and we're happy to work with you one-on-one and help you with that through the first few that you create. And then usually the light goes off and it makes sense to you, and you can go out and create your future ones. What you have to remember, and make a note of this, everyone, that's very important, is we are restricted to working the way that Point stores their data in your .brw files. The way Point stores fields in a .brw file is it doesn't store every one of these field ID numbers, okay? It only stores the field ID number when there's data in the field, okay? So what I mean by that is if the loan has the box checked for 1190, field 1190 would be written to the .brw file, and it would show an X. It would show that the box had been checked. If the box hadn't been checked, okay, if it wasn't there, and I'm in the display of the field ID number, so it's going to work a little differently than what you're used to. But if this box wasn't checked, okay, then field 1190 doesn't exist, okay? So if field 1190 doesn't exist, if I wanted this to go out on a refinance, I couldn't put not equal to yes. You can't say not equal to yes to a field that doesn't exist. So you really have to have a basic understanding of how Point stores their data. So that's the reason why we ask our customers, when you're making rules for the first time, create the rule, make sure it's not enabled, okay? You can even, to make absolutely sure it doesn't trigger, put it to scope of loan, so it just sits there. It's not going to run on your company. Take a copy of that screen and send it to us and let us take a look at it for you, and let us help you with your first few rules that you do. And if in doubt, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to help you with those unique fields and the way that they get stored in the .brw file. So that's the reason why we do offer to our customers from one extreme to the other how much we're here to help you, because it does require some basic knowledge of the point system to be able to come in and create those rules. Okay, so you'll see that the rules get created and get added here, and it'll show you over here the ones that are enabled. And I'm sure several people are noticing a new column over here, and it's alert texting templates. Okay, so we're down to the last couple minutes. I'm going to go over this in a little bit more detail for you on our call next week. Okay, and we're going to be doing also a Pacific training call for this. But what we released this morning to everyone's site, and yes, it is out there, but don't go using it yet until you understand how it works. We added the ability to send texts. We do listen to our customers. We can't give you the features you want as fast as you want. Building technology isn't that easy, but we do listen to our customers, and we do want to continue to offer you enhancements and new features to the product to be able to make your jobs and your life easier. And on this particular case, we've now added the ability for emails that are, texts that are created on the Pulse side. Texting is not available to our Pulse conventional customers yet. That'll be about 45 days to build that out. And then texting is not available yet to Pulse marketing. So let me answer those two questions right now before you ask them. Okay, so on the Pulse conventional sites, we'll have that up and running for you in about 45 days, and it will probably be 60 to 90 days before we have this built into Pulse marketing. But it is phase 3 and it is coming. So, but what we do have right now is we do have the ability for you to go in and create text and have texts sent out along with your status emails. So basically, when you go into the site now, you were used to seeing email templates and email skins. We now have a new tab called texting templates. I'm going to go over how to set those up and go into more detail with you on that next week during our training call. And there will also be an email coming out on Tuesday for a training call specific to just all the wonderful enhancements that go along with that. But for the remainder of the call, for the next 5 minutes, let's actually talk about the email templates real quick. And then I'm going to check to see if anyone has any questions. And then for anyone who wants to stay on the call, I'm happy to answer any additional questions. So basically, under the email skins, we deliver about 22 standard emails with your system for most of the statuses that you're used to seeing within your point application and are included on that setup sheet. So everyone, if you've filled out one of our setup sheets, you've seen application completed, appraisal ordered and received, clear to close, closed. All of those are created. You'll notice on that setup sheet, we ask you to tell us who you want to be the recipient of those emails, and you check up those boxes, and that's where we come in and we set these up. We add who the recipients are, who it's coming from, what the subject line is. We come in and we set up the wonderful bodies of those emails, and we design all that for you. Creating emails and making changes to emails and everything, I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail for you during the call next week. We also do allow attachments to emails, and we do get asked that on a regular basis. Attachments can be added to an email, but those attachments are not interactive with the point file or the point system. So the attachments have to be something that would be static, that's never changing, like ECOA information or a phone list that you wanted to provide to each one of your customers so they knew how to reach everyone within your company, or different things like that. This particular one in my demo site was one that I was testing for a customer where they created a VCF file that I was able to attach to their emails, and there is a notice in their emails that go out that let the customers or the realtors know that if they click on the attachment to the email, they can download their VCF file to their contacts for whatever email system they happen to be using. And it really worked quite well for them. So It's a small company. There's just 4 loan officers. So we went in and we created this, and they send out about a half a dozen email templates. So we customized those email templates for each one of the loan officers, and we customized their email templates to be triggered on their loans so that it included this attachment. So we do work with our customers that we do encourage thinking outside the box, and there's really some really cool things that we can do with that. But I'll be going into the email templates a little bit more in detail during our training call next week. So give me a moment and let me see what questions anyone has posted. So yes, Robert, it is texting and it is finally released. Robert is one of our Pulse customers who's been anxiously waiting for our texting module. And I'm really excited to say that it has been released and it's been tested thoroughly and it's really doing a great job. So I'll be excited to show everyone in more detail on that next week. I'm so sorry, Scott, your audio was muted. You were the only one that posted it, so hopefully everyone's been able to hear me with no problem. I was asked by Stephen if these training calls are recorded, and absolutely they are. I will convert it to an MP4 file for you, and I will email the link to everyone just like I've done in the past. And then with that link, you'll be able to access all 3 recordings. Let's see, what is the difference between this and Flowify in regards to status updates? Does this take the place of Flowify? It seems like it is redundant to me. Forgive me, I am late to the party on this. Yes, if you're using Flowify to send out status updates, Jody, yes, sending status updates out through our Pulse application would be redundant for you. I don't know what else you're using through the Flowify system. I'm not that familiar with it. I don't know if you would continue to need Flowify if you're using our Pulse application. I know the difference between a lot of applications like Flowify and some of the others is that they don't, they're not able to read the point files, and it requires the users to double key their information or to do an export and an import. And what's nice about our Pulse application is we read the data directly from your point file and doesn't require any additional rekeying on your part. Rollout for texting. As I said, our texting feature was rolled out to our customers this morning. If you were to go in and go to settings within your application, you're going to see a tab that says texting templates. We'll be doing a training call on this next Thursday that will be sent out to our entire database, but for everyone that is already signed up for my call next Wednesday at this time, you will be trained first. So I will be doing the training on how those are set up and the different ways that they can be utilized within the system and everything, and I will be including that on my training call for next week. So I look forward to having you on that call and look forward to sharing that texting feature with everyone. Let's see. So don't need to sign up for Thursday's training then? No, you would not need to. If you attend this call on Wednesday, you wouldn't need to also attend on Thursday unless you're one of those individuals that do better when you hear something more than once. And again, next Wednesday's call will be recorded and you will have access to that recording. Okay, so this is really exciting. This has been something we've worked really hard on, and we know that it's going to be a great feature to our customers. I will let you know what we are recommending to our customers is whatever status emails that you're currently sending out in the form of an email template, you want to leave those. And then what you want to do is follow up with those along with the text that you're going to want to send out. That way they can receive it in the form of a text and they'll have that follow-up email. I'm one of those individuals who love backups of my backups, everyone. So I usually recommend, I'm going to be recommending to my clients to not stop using your email templates, continue to use those email templates, but also add that wonderful text notification along with it. So as for that, I'm going to give everyone 3 minutes of their day back and we're going to end the call. This training call for today. Thank you again, everyone, so much for joining this call. I look forward to having you on our call next Wednesday, and I really look forward to sharing the texting features with you and how to set up those wonderful email templates. Otherwise, everyone, thank you again, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.